What's happening, guys? Welcome to a dark and wet Sunday afternoon. This is not really a vlog or a tutorial, or it's more just you and I hanging out on a Sunday afternoon, which is probably going to be Monday, Tuesday when you see this anyway. I don't know, depends how quickly I get it out. And it's just I wanted to go out today and do some filming and some photography, and things took over, chores took over, and so on and so forth. Along with the fact that the weather was sort of unpredictable, and I got things in my head about what I wanted to do. Didn't get a chance to do those, so it got a bit late, ended up being a bit too dark. Then I didn't want to do something else, so I thought, well, you know, I could do it doing something. I could do it doing something interesting. And then I thought to myself, well, this is quite interesting. And just us chatting about how things move on, and just showing you something that I like doing, something you guys can have a go at, something you guys can take away from this and have a practice with, have a play, enjoy changing your photos, changing the look of things, and etc, etc. And it's basically getting that sort of very fashionable teal and orange look in your photographs within Lightroom. It's really quick, and I just thought, you know, be interesting for you to know how to do that. Be interesting for you to go away and do some of that stuff. It'd be great if you could do some and then tag me in them so that I can actually see what they look like. You're welcome to fire me a link on YouTube or on my Instagram, The Real Daniel Debenham, and I'll have a look and we'll go from there. But yeah, let's get into Lightroom and let's have a look and see how we do that. Okay guys, so now that we are in Lightroom and we've got our photo in our library, we select our photo, so it comes up, we see a preview over in the navigator over on the left hand side. We go over to develop and our photo will pop up and we can see we've got our image sat in the workspace. So first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to go down to lens correction and we're going to remove chromatic aberration and we're going to enable a profile correction. For this I shot it on a Canon, so we're going to shove a Canon in there. It's a 10 to 22mm lens, and so we leave it as is. Basically that corrects the image that's come out of your camera and is displayed in Lightroom. It corrects it so it's flat and it takes some of the curvature away basically. Next thing to do is dead simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to calibration. We're not going to touch any of the basic or the saturation or the HSL or the tonal curve, anything. We're not going to do any of that yet at all. That comes later. What we're going to do is we're going to go to calibration, and as we can see on calibration we've got three parts. We've got a red primary, a green primary and a blue primary, so that's your RGB. What we're wanting to affect is we're wanting to affect the blues and the reds, because we want oranges and we want teals, so we want more blue and we want more red. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the blue primary and we're going to slide that slider across as far as we deem fit. Now as you can see, as I slide it across, it's affecting the reds as well, which it will do, because obviously you're pumping more colour into this photograph. So we're going to drag that across to as far as we feel we need to go. Then we're going to go up to the red primary and we're going to drag that the opposite way, so we're adding in, so we're taking away dark blues and adding light blues in, and we're taking away dark reds and adding light reds in. So we're adding more orange in. So as you can now see, she has now got a lovely golden sort of style tan. You can take it as far and play with this as much as you want. You can get as much or as little of that effect as you like. Once you've done that, you can then go to saturation and you can desaturate, or you can add saturation in to the oranges and the blues. So I'm going to add a little bit of saturation in there, and I'm going to add a little bit of saturation into the blue just to give it a little bit more pump. Next thing we can do is, she's got a really mad tan on at the moment, so she's quite golden, so to speak. What we can do is we can go up to the HSL colour up here. So as you can see, we've got all these items, these options. We've got hue, we've got luminance, we've got all, we've got saturation. We want to be in saturation. We click this little dot at the side, which now lights up, as you can see. and then we go over to where our colour is that we want to affect. So in this case I want to affect some of the mid darker colours, and I click on it and then I just drag down, and as you can see in the right hand side you can see the orange slider moving back and forth as I do that, and you can also see that on the histogram. You can see it affecting up at the top of the right hand side. You see the histogram being affected. And what that's doing is that's dragging some of the saturation of the oranges down. It's only affecting the oranges that's in this photograph. So I'm going to pull those back ever so slightly. I'm going to keep a little bit of orange in there, but I'm not going to go too far because I still want that orange and teal look to it. But I'm going to go probably around sort of -25, I would think. Okay, so once we've done that, that's basically the bones of your look, of your orange and teal look. They are actually done now. What we can do is we can shut that HSL slider down, and we can shut this calibration slider down. So what we can do now is we can now start to mess around with the basic sort of colour variances. So we'll go to basic, we look at the exposure, and we can either underexpose it or we can slightly overexpose it just to give it a little bit more brightness. So we'll take that up very slightly. We can take up the contrast slightly just to punch those colours in a little bit more. So if we go too far we get too much darkness. So we can go just a little bit, and then what we can do is we can pump the highlights up a little bit, or we can drop them slightly just to bring out that blue in the sea behind her. And we can just pop the shadows in slightly, only ever so slightly, maybe 8 or 9. We can pull the whites up a little bit just to sort of highlight her face and her nose around this sort of area, and around her forehead, and then around the feet and along this top line up here. We can do that, and then we can just pull the blacks back a little bit just to take away some of the black. So I'm going to take away about 45. Incidentally, if you have a number in mind, you want to take it to 45. If I want to take it to 40, I can just click on it and I can type 40 in there, hit enter, and it will then do that. If you want to do -40, you can just type -40 and it will take the blacks right down and it'll crunch them basically. But what we want to do is I want to do 45, so I'm going to bang it at 45, jobs are good done. Okay, next thing we can do is we can pull up the clarity slightly. So we'll pull the clarity in slightly, just maybe around the sort of 25 to 30 mark. Maybe go 27 just to be in the middle of where I've just said. And we can then get the vibrance, which affects the vibrancy of the colours. It doesn't saturate the colours in, so we're not trying to oversaturate the image because we've already saturated it with the blue and the orange. We want to just vibrant those up a little bit so they're a little bit more to them. As we can see, as we go in, we're really vibrant, but we don't want to go that far. Probably around the magic number, I think, is probably around 34 or 35. So we'll go for that. And that is pretty much our image as I think it should be. If we just nip down here to where we've got these two little Y's here, we can just see a before and an after, so you can see the difference between the two images. The image on the right is the one we've coloured, and the image on the left is the original image that I fetched into Lightroom for this purpose, basically. Okay guys, I hope you found that useful, and I hope you found it interesting. I hope you do take away from it and have a go at it and get some of your photos having that nice orange and teal look to them. I think next week what I might do is just sort of like go through how you sort of make them look a bit more hipster and a little bit more sort of vintage looking. But I'll do that in another tutorial or another chat, as it were, and we'll see where we go from there. See you guys next week.